Today's episode is about the rule of threes. 3 daedric princes, 3 artifacts, and 3 crashes because, well... In this episode, I'll be collecting 3 daedric artifacts and showing you the bizarre journey I went on to get them. So, come adventure with me as I travel across Skyrim and converse with ancient and powerful gods in exchange for magical trinkets. But I hear you figuratively ask, so why are you collecting these artifacts? In my time as an adventurer in Skyrim, I haven't really explored magic beyond the occasional panicked healing spell. I mostly just use a big ass sword or my fists to obliterate my enemies. However, I recall once that I discovered a shrine to Mehrunes Dagon in the middle of nowhere. This was the spark that ignited my burning passion for demonic artifacts, and as I stared at the stony loincloth of the Prince of Destruction, I felt that I too should indulge in some destruction of my own. Destruction of the local economy, that is, because these artifacts are going to make me filthy rich. So it was there that I decided to track down 3 of the most powerful artifacts ever created so that I might inject my woefully underfunded self with some much needed material wealth. Our story starts in Falkreath. I'd heard rumors of a werewolf hiding out around here, and upon arriving at the village I was stopped by a guard who asked if I had seen any dogs out on the road. I told him other than the dog I got in me, no. After he presumably rolled his eyes, the guard mentioned that the blacksmith in town was looking for a dog, so I resolved to check in with him later. After wandering around town for a while, I ran into a man named Sinding in the town's dungeon, a man who happened to be a werewolf. He was imprisoned for not being able to control his transformations, a problem that he had been trying to solve with a certain magical ring that he had stolen from Hircine. Unfortunately, as punishment for his thievery, this ring was cursed by Hircine and had the opposite effect, making his transformations random and driving him into a berserk rage. The ring ultimately caused him to go out of control and kill a little girl, which is why he's now imprisoned. So, when Sinding offered the cursed ring to me, I naturally accepted, not thinking too hard about the consequences being a werebear and all. Sinding suggested I hunt down the sacred animal of Hircine, the white stag, in order to speak with the prince and strike up a deal for the ring. And he happened to have Tamriel GPS and pointed an arrow right to it. After that, Sinding, now in werewolf form, stealthily scampered off from his secluded cell, and I tracked down and killed the white stag. This allowed me to speak with the father of werebeasts himself, who asked me to participate in a great hunt. Being a werebear and a follower of Hircine, I accepted, not realizing what I had signed up for. When I arrived, I found hunters lying in a decimated heap. It was soon after that I realized Hircine had sent me as part of a wild hunt to kill Sinding. I then had a lengthy discussion with Sinding, who decided he would never go back to his former life among humans. Then I decided to team up with him, to kill all the hunters that Hircine had sent. And together we emerged victorious. I then apologized to the big deer man for refusing to kill my fellow were-creature, but surprisingly, Hircine rewarded me for turning the hunt on its head. He uncursed the ring that Sinding had given me, allowing me complete control over my transformations, which seems a bit like a giant middle finger to Sinding, but hey, I didn't turn a little girl into confetti, so whatever. And so I finally had my first daedric artifact, the Ring of Hircine. But I guess Hircine was still working out the kinks on the ring, because then I turned into a battleaxe for some reason. Then the game crashed. Upon returning to Tamriel, I went to the blacksmith in Falkreath to upgrade my gear a little and speak about the dog he was looking for. He informed me that he was looking for a loyal companion to keep him warm on those cold Skyrim nights, and while I was flattered, I turned him down. I did, however, feel slightly bad for him, so lacking anything else better to do, I dutifully slapped the blacksmith's mystery meat in my hands and headed out into the wilderness to find a dog for him. It was here that I ran into Barbas, a talking dog. Though I didn't really find that too odd, as I was a talking bear-lizard hybrid myself. And while I considered bringing the blacksmith a talking dog, I decided that that might generate some sort of Tamriel equivalent of a sitcom, and I figured that Skyrim could do without that. So I resolved to bring him back to whatever strange master he evidently had. Then I took an insanely long trip across half the map to drop Fido off at this cave that I had already visited. It was here that I struck a deal with Barbas' master, the daedric prince Clavicus Vile. As payment for my return of Barbas, and because this quest wouldn't be very fun if I didn't have to go clear out a dungeon, Vile sent me to a different frozen hellhole to fetch a special axe. This axe was supposed to be payment for me, and a sort of a payment to Vile from Barbas as well, as Vile was currently weaker without him, but regardless still seemed pissed that Barbas was such a chill dude, whilst he was so much not one. Regardless, I retrieved the rueful axe and brought it to Clavicus Vile, who then told me to kill Barbas with it. But as Barbas had always been a bro, and because there's no way I'm killing a dog on this channel, I told Vile no, and after a bit of grumbling, he reluctantly accepted the axe, took Barbas back, and gave me his mask instead. Overall, a surprisingly good deal despite coming from the Prince of Horrible Deals. After admiring my new horrific mask for a while, I decided it was time to obtain my third and final relic, which brings us to our final quest, the Grey Cowl of Nocturnal, one of the most half-baked quests I've ever played. This one revolves around tracking down the Cowl of Nocturnal, a powerful mask created by the daedric Prince of Night, whose name is, you guessed it, Nocturnal. The cowl allows you to see people through walls and boost your sneak skill by a decent amount, quite useful for a sneaky sort of character, which I am not. Most of this quest takes place through notes and brief dialogue exchanges with NPCs that seem brain dead. But I guess that's to be expected from an add-on quest. Regardless, I began by finding a note on a dead thief in the Riften graveyard, who had apparently come here to look for the grave of the former owner of the cowl. The note on his body mentioned speaking a code word to the beggars, Shadow Haiju. This then prompted the beggar to hand me another note, which offered me a job. Now, as you may have noticed, my character is not good at stealth, so I had to get creative here. The note asked me to break into a lockbox in some guy named Boley's house, which I accomplished not by sneaking, but by straight up telling his wife that a thief planted something in it, and when that didn't work I told her that there was a bomb in it too. And thanks to my horrific but useful mask, she calmly accepted this strange and obvious lie, giving me 100 gold and the key to the box. In the lockbox was a note from the notorious thief and owner of the cowl, the Grey Fox, who was looking for someone worthy of his legendary mask. To prove my worth, I would have to steal a deed from a woman named Gisli and plant it in a different woman's house. Easy enough. So I went to Solitude to enact my audacious caper. It went off without a hitch, thanks in part to my ability to be silent despite wearing a ton of armor. And after accomplishing my little bit of notarizing, I was given my next set of instructions from a barrel. Here I had to retrieve a sword from, you're never gonna believe this, a dungeon full of dragur. I'll be honest, this part of the quest didn't impress me that much, but after retrieving the sword of Clan Iceblade from Silverdrift Lair, I headed off to speak with the Grey Fox himself and to claim my cowl. After reading a journal that was stuck in the ground, I learned that the current Grey Fox was some random Nord guy that wanted to relinquish his mask to me, so that he could take care of his nephew that was being abused for land development purposes in High Rock. Then Mr. Grey Fox McIceblade himself appeared out of nowhere with his nephew, promptly gave me the mask, then left. And that's how I obtained my third and final artifact. With that, I had collected 3 different artifacts, traveled the breadth of Skyrim, and now the only thing left to do is abuse my newfound power in order to obtain substantial wealth. But that'll have to wait until the next video. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay curious.